Welcome, everyone. We're really glad to get started with you here today. This is a briefing where we're going to cover a little bit about what SMT is doing. My name is Hannah Roditi. I'm SMT's director, and I'm really excited to be here with you all today. So the agenda today is we're going to talk about quickly an example combining online and offline organizing in 2023. We are going to walk through the training schedule for the coming year, talk about coaching, assessments, and one-on-one support. So who is SMT? Social Movement Technologies is a nonprofit movement partner. We do training, assessments, accompaniment, coaching, direct campaign support to build people power in the digital age. And we've trained staff and leaders from over 4,400 groups in our first 10 years and worked with 150 plus more groups in depth. And we're all proud members of the Pacific Media Workers Guild, part of the labor movement in the United States. Want to introduce some members of the team who are here with us today. If you can just jump in. Joska?
Hi everyone, I'm Joska Amondi. I'm SMT's Africa Movement Support Coordinator. I'm a queer rights activist and a movement mobilizer. I'm based in Kenya.
Hi everyone, Mickey here. I'm a climate activist and LGBT rights movement activist based in Manila in the Philippines, and I'm SMT's Asian Movement Support Coordinator. Nice to meet you all.
Marhaba salam. Hi everyone. I am Ahmed Al Madhoun, digital campaigner and social activist, Palestinian based in Cairo, and the MENA Movement Support Coordinator with SMT. Nice to meet you today.
Hi everyone, bonjour tout le monde. My name is Victoire. I'm the Western Europe Movement Support Coordinator, and I'm based in Sweden. And my activism has been mostly in the climate justice movement.
Hi everyone, I'm Ena. I'm climate and social justice activist from North Macedonia. I'm working with SMT as Eastern Europe Movement Support Coordinator. Nice to be here.
Great. So we're going to start off by talking a little bit about one example, kind of first some kind of principles about organizing, and then we'll go into an example. So in general, one of the things that we work with groups a lot on is moving from the bullhorn approach to kind of using social media and online tools where you just kind of broadly, you're just broadcasting your message out there, right? It's visibility, it's just kind of, but it's just a broadcast. We're not asking people to do anything specific, and we're not targeting people and engaging with them to bring them in and really activate them in our work. So we work with groups to move from that to more of a kind of fishing kind of metaphor where we're really looking to engage with specific people and bring them in to the work and activate them. And here's a couple of examples here on the bottom left is an example of a tweet where it's just broadcast, right? It's retweet if you agree with this. And it's not really leading to anything concrete. And on the right here is an example of a TikTok that's very specific from a group of people who are pushing for usage of bicycles. And they're saying, this particular, get involved, DM me, so they're engaging directly. And if you can see, there's a specific ask, and if you can see the chat, you can see back and forth that this person is really getting people directly to interact with him and then looping them into the work. And this chart, just this kind of image shows a series of escalating actions in a campaign, and it's all about escalating pressure on a tactic using both online tactics and offline tactics, and then recognizing also that in all of campaigns that we work on, there's always trigger events, right? There are events that happen beyond our control, and we respond to them, and people respond to them. And one of the challenges and things we need to do is be ready for those trigger events to make the most of them, and also be ready to pivot in our strategy. So this kind of strategic approach to running campaigns and responding to events is part of what runs through SMT trainings. So this is a flash mob scene, what I'm about to play, of a campaign in Madagascar that we worked with. This is with an organization called CRAD.io, and they were working to close the pilot stage of a mine in the northern part, rare earth mine in the northern part of the island, and they have won that campaign for the time being. The investor has left, and they did. This is some examples of the whole kind of online offline campaign that they did, that they carried out really quite well, and that we worked with them on. We worked with them some on building the narrative. They started off with kind of an approach to the campaign that was a little bit too policy talk, too scientific talk, and so they developed their narrative so that it was broadly compelling. They also had a question about who should they target, whether it should be the corporation or the president, and the question about the fact that there was several days journey from the northern part of the island where the community was being impacted to the capital, and how to manage that. So together we came up with the idea of doing a caravan, and they determined that it was very important to reduce fear and reduce the likelihood of the police coming down on them. And they did a whole caravan involving artists and musicians. And you can see in this action, there was a lot of joy and young people. And here they did a lot of offline actions from the community all the way to the capital. And they captured those. You can see these really good photographs, images. They used online platforms a lot to get the word out. And they had a lot of media coverage, which they were very intentional about developing. You can see here a lot of media coverage. They did Zoom meetings to get people involved. Here is more of their actions. They did an online petition using Action Network, which we have a training coming up on. Some of you have become familiar with Action Network as a very good free tool. So that's an example. And just to summarize, they used narrative. They developed their narrative so it was compelling. They had a target strategy. Their tactic was, one of them was a caravan. They intentionally used tactics to activate young people, reduce fear. They used social media effectively to amplify offline action. They intentionally cultivated media coverage, and they ended up with a win. It's an ongoing, I'm sure there will be an attempt to open that mine again, but at this point it's a win. So upcoming, there's a few trainings. There are top tools and tactics free trainings coming up in 2023. Here are the dates in each region. There is on January 31st, there's a free training on Mastodon as an alternative to Twitter. There's over 1,000 people registered for that so far, and it will be interpreted to 5 languages. And there's a training coming up in March on how people with low internet access are building power in the digital age. Intensives coming up. There's 2 intensives coming up in May. These are 3-week intensives on digital campaigning campaigning the digital age. There's over 1,000 people who've graduated from this intensive already. And one of the ways that funders can engage is to support grantees to attend that. This is the certificate that comes out of it. And here are the rates for that. So as you can see, it ranges from $1,600 per person. Second person from an organization is less than half that, down to $600 outside of North America and Western Europe. But there are also group rates. So a funder can send 10 people for $4,000. So that's a lot less expensive. Other intensives coming up in 2023, we will be looking to do an intensive on grassroots video. The graphic design apprenticeship is something we run each year lately that has a lot of participants. An intensive on running ads. We're also thinking about doing a movement building theory and practice intensive for Africa, MENA, and Asia campaigners. We need foundation funding to support that though. Some other paid programs coming up shortly. Building movement tech infrastructure is going to be happening at the end of February. This is very, very important for funders and organizations that are working with a lot of smaller groups to attend. We'll be talking about parent-child structure with Action Network that's being used in the UK now to enable small groups to really ramp up online. Distributed organizing, activating people across regions and countries with a tiny coordinating team, how to use LinkedIn, expanding, developing, and evaluating your team's digital capacity, and organizing 101 in French for Francophone African campaigners. Here are a few things that we've learned over the years of doing online trainings. One is that the kind of pedagogical approach has moved increasingly towards using case studies to spur discussion, and also assignments. So the intensives particularly are full of assignments that each assignment gets checked and gets feedback. In general, the digital campaigning certificate program, that 3-week intensive, goes broad across tools, tactics, and strategies. And other intensives, for example, the graphic design intensive, ads intensive, go deep into specific skill areas, and they focus on those technical skills. The other thing that we have found is that it's very helpful for groups to train up a team and if they're sending a team, it's important to have a lead to coordinate and encourage sharing and application of learnings within the organization. So let's talk a little bit about assessments. So when we work one-on-one with groups, and we have about a dozen contracts with foundations to work with grantees, cohorts of grantees. It's usually a combination of participating in group trainings as well as one-to-one coaching and assessments. So assessment and coaching, yeah, we've worked with over 150 organizations. We pull people in from a pretty big support team. There's a whole range of the type of coaching that we provide, kind of different topics. And a piece of that is also thought partnership. So there are cases in which, it's a very experienced team, and our role is to help brainstorm and be another source of ideas for putting together a plan. And here are just some examples of kind of areas of work that we work with groups on, and it starts with a very quick assessment. It takes 5 to 10 hours. We do it over a day or two, and then we come up with recommendations, and that guides our work. So there's a lot of different areas of work there. And now I just want to say a little bit about funder-sponsored support options. So if you are a funder participating here today, then there are several ways that funders are involved in helping to provide access to this kind of support for grantee partners. One is to sponsor grantees to get access to training, and so there are lower group rates oftentimes for that. Another is to sponsor a coaching cohort. So cohorts have ranged in size from 7 groups to 30 groups. And each group then we work with, and that costs, it ranges from $1,500 to $5,000 for SMT to work with a group for 6 to 12 months. Providing tech support for a multi-group campaign. So sometimes there will be, let's say that there is a campaign, a large campaign, fighting ECOP, or a large campaign, and there are many groups involved. It can be very useful to have a thought partner and to have support for that entire group of groups focused on that campaign. That's really the best scenario to make the most of support, because then it helps to strengthen an entire campaign. Or it could be a community of practice, right? To support groups working on a particular issue across regions, let's say. And finally, sponsoring trainings for open access to all, right? So increasingly in Africa and MENA region, for example, we're especially looking for partners to support training so that everyone can access them. This is the best source of truth. We keep this pretty up to date, and it's in different languages, but you can scroll through and see all the upcoming trainings. And the one that's coming up next is Mastodon on January 31st. And so there's a question in the chat about how are trainings customized to a specific group. There's really two questions. One, Suthida, you're asking about how are the trainings tailored to geography, particularly interested in Asia. So the way trainings are tailored to geography varies a bit. For example, what's coming up are a series of trainings on top tools and tactics, and a lot of that content is going to be the same across regions, but differences will be a local trainer will be doing the training for the most part, and there'll be examples from the region of different tactics, etc. In many trainings, the way it's tailored is look for case studies and examples of campaigns from the region, and we invite those activists to come in and share. And we work with them quite a bit ahead of time to make sure that they're presenting the case study in ways that make it easier for people to learn what worked, right? So there's some work involved in that. It's finding case studies and then working with the activists to help them put together an effective learning experience from that. And then the other way that trainings are tailored is that we really look at what the needs are of the region and what people are asking for. So for example, in regions where people are organizing under authoritarian regimes, there's more of a demand for digital security of activists, and there's also more of a demand for trainings that look at tactics that can be used in those environments, right? So that can have an impact as well. And then there's also, of course, time zone and language access issues that we incorporate. We try to make the trainings more accessible. And Jumana, you asked about customization to specific groups. Yes, and we do a lot of customized trainings. In the last year or so, we've done training for Greenpeace Southeast Asia, ActionAid globally, Amnesty Latin America, a whole series of trainings for a coalition across the region involving people from multiple countries, organizing for sex education in schools to end gender violence.